Hey, good morning, everyone. Josh's Severe Weather. Happy Thursday to y'all. Hope you're having a great week so far. And happy 420 day for those who celebrate. All right, so we've got severe weather ongoing across the central part of the country. We are going to continue to have an outbreak of severe weather. Basically, anybody from eastern Iowa, northern and central Wisconsin, well, not really northern, but central Wisconsin, all the way down to the western Gulf Coast, including central Texas, is under the gun for some form of severe weather today into tonight. The greater chance for storms that will produce severe wind and hail appears to be setting up here later today into this evening over central and east Texas, maybe even into the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. And in the meantime, we've got yet another snowfall, which is going to continue to bring record-breaking seasonal totals to portions of northern Minnesota and southwest, or I guess northwest Ontario here, as we have yet another accumulating snowfall expected. This was yesterday evening. We're looking at tower cameras from Chopper 4 in Oklahoma, and while we did have a lot of large hail as anticipated across Nebraska, Kansas, even western Iowa, what was maybe a little bit of a surprise to a lot of us, especially me, was that we did have a few isolated tornadoes that grew in size quickly, were becoming unpredictable, and produced some widespread damage over parts of south central Oklahoma. Not far from Norman, this is down around the Cole area. Here's what the radar looked like yesterday evening, and I was out for part of the evening, so I didn't get a chance to see all of it for him, but you can see the tight rotation here on the radar yesterday, probably an EF3 or EF4 tornado. Even though you see a lot of rain here, there is a strong circulation inside of that that's kind of hard to see. So rain wraps can be very dangerous. But nonetheless, likely quite a bit of damage. We did have two fatalities, unfortunately, and just a nasty setup here yesterday evening. Really, it was just one big cell that kind of split around into multiple pieces. Stu Ostro, senior meteorologist with the Weather Channel, I follow him on Twitter, shows the radar loop from last night. You can see the first circulation, then a second circulation, and then just very unpredictable. So if you are a storm chaser or an aspiring storm chaser, this is a textbook example of unpredictability where storms can cycle, circulations can kind of reform, overtake others, and one where you can be caught in a very dangerous location. And this is why you've got that polygon that even though it looks like the storm's only going to go over a small portion of that polygon, there's definitely the possibility, especially in these bigger circulations, and especially in Tornado Alley, Oklahoma, in particular, where storms could be somewhat unpredictable. So as famed meteorologist James Spann says, please respect the polygon. Even if it doesn't look like you're right there in the immediate path, there can be some change in the circulation. And here's what we had storm-wise yesterday. A lot of reports of hail. That was to be expected. We did have some severe weather as well over southern Wisconsin and north central Illinois, and some large hail embedded in there. But really the most intense wind took place near and just east of Omaha, right on down through east central Kansas. And we did have that one cluster of storms that didn't last all night, but it did produce some havoc over south central Oklahoma with large hail in the Oklahoma City, Norman metro area. And unfortunately, the deadly tornado around Cole, Oklahoma, about 30 miles south of Oklahoma City, and a little bit of brief hail as well with one supercell in west central Texas. So it was an active day. I expect that we're going to see kind of a similar number of storm reports today into tonight. There could be a couple tornadoes as well, but I don't think we're going to see an EF3 or an EF4. At least I really hope not. Here's the water vapor image. You can see how things very quickly strengthened and developed here yesterday evening, and then very quickly dissipated as well with this kind of conditional risk of severe weather. You can see storm cell went up, then it fell apart. Another storm cell went up, fell apart. And last night, most of the weather got going here in eastern Kansas, and that currently is tracking into western portions of Kansas, or Missouri, where we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for a little bit longer here, south central Iowa, northwestern Missouri, eastern Kansas. The overall threat for severe weather early this morning is expected to lessen, but the Kansas City area and on up northward is under the gun for some severe wind and maybe a little bit of hail as well. Outside of that, we have a winter storm warning in effect over northeastern North Dakota, northern Minnesota, winter weather advisories, which I think could get upgraded in the Arrowhead here, and all the way back into Montana, where we do have a winter storm warning as well. So winter not done yet over the northern tier of the country or the central Rockies. We've got a high fire danger today So keep that in mind over Middle Tennessee, much of Kentucky, southern and central Indiana, and Ohio. As temperatures are going to warm up to near record levels, humidity is still fairly low, especially with not a lot of rain this week and winds increasing ahead of this storm system. We are going to have that increased risk for fire danger. And behind the storm, as that dry air very quickly moves in, we do have a high fire danger risk in an area that's in a pretty significant drought here over New Mexico, southeast Colorado, western Kansas, northwestern, or I should say the Texas Panhandle and the Oklahoma Panhandle as well. Pretty quiet across the east. We do have some areas of fog to keep an eye on here over North Carolina as well as the central Gulf Coast early today. That should dissipate pretty quickly. Temperature-wise, very comfy here in the southeast, even in the central Florida. We're in the 50s. Still chilly across the northeast and the upper Midwest. Much colder weather is moving down into the Rockies. We're going to possibly see some record lows tonight over the central Rockies, maybe some single-digit temperatures. And you can see the warmth surging ahead of our cold front here across North Texas, Oklahoma. Even in the wake of last night's storms, we still have temperatures in the low 70s in Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and mid-60s all the way up into portions of central Missouri, close to 70 this morning in St. Louis, and still pretty mild as well in the Chicagoland area, 58, which feels pretty nice after what we had here on Sunday into Monday. You can see that warming trend here. We've warmed up almost 20 degrees in the last 24 hours. At the same time, we've cooled off almost 20 degrees in the last 24 hours back in the southern Rockies, even 32 degrees colder than this time yesterday, just to the south and east around Pueblo, Colorado. So very cold air is on its way back in for April. And record chill is possible here over the next couple of days over parts of the central and southern plains, except in Texas, where we do have a front hung up. It's still quite chilly as well across Quebec and eastern Canada, especially compared to yesterday, but we will see temperatures moderating here over the next couple of days. And here's why. Here's our dynamic storm system, Minnesota and Wisconsin. That first wave moves up towards Lake Superior and then kind of stops strengthening. What it'll do is it'll kind of stall here and allow colder air to wrap in and produce snow showers right on into tomorrow. Out ahead of it, we've got a strengthening low-level jet, which will allow storms to intensify this afternoon over Texas and continue to see that threat for heavy rain and thunderstorms all the way up into western Tennessee and southern parts of Indiana overnight tonight. A wave of low pressure will form over the Ohio Valley later tomorrow into tomorrow night. That'll take over and become our main storm system. It was looking a couple days ago that this low pressure system would be a little slower and farther southwest, allowing the cold air to catch up with it and produce a brief period of wet snow. Nothing like what we saw in Wisconsin on Monday morning, but certainly enough to accumulate. However, the trend has been faster with this storm system and not as strong. Things aren't quite lining up. So kind of a false start there when it comes to a return of snow. But we will see snowflakes falling here on Saturday evening over upper Michigan, lower Michigan even, northern Wisconsin, and especially over central and eastern parts of Ontario. While we do have the risk for heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms on the East Coast here Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, and a wet day on Sunday across New England as colder air follows. We will see higher elevation snow as well Sunday afternoon into Sunday night here, but quieting down across much of the eastern U.S. and the north central U.S. by the end of the weekend. We are going to see more unsettled weather on the high plains, and that is going to move eastward across Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana. Some of the same places that are getting hit here in the next couple of days are going to get hit again with more potential severe weather heading into next Tuesday. From the Storm Prediction Center, you can see a large area of storms expected, a marginal risk all the way up to very close to Wausau and Stevens Point, Wisconsin, a slight risk for severe weather up to the St. Louis area, all the way down into central and east Texas. There will be a chance for some tornadoes, 2% chance, not a high chance, but I will caution you in Oklahoma yesterday, that chance was between 2 and 5%, and we did get a strong tornado out of it. So that chance is still a chance. Just be prepared for that, especially if you're in Texas and northwestern Louisiana and southwest Arkansas. We do have a little bit better chance, though, to see more widespread wind damage from central Texas all the way up into eastern Missouri. And the hail chance is enhanced as we get into central and east Texas. The I-35 corridor, including San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Arlington, Round Rock, Waco, Temple, those areas in Texas all have the risk for some larger hail, maybe up to 2.5 inches in diameter, golf ball sized, and maybe even baseball sized later today into this evening. So again, here is from weatherbell.com our storm chance tomorrow. The chance for severe weather is somewhat lessened across the southeast. Let me zoom over so you guys can see that. But there is a chance for severe weather all the way down to deep South Texas, right up the coastal bend through Houston into southern and central Louisiana and central Mississippi. This is not going to be a larger chance for severe weather, but there could be some hail and certainly the risk for not really tornadoes, but some severe wind all the way east towards Mobile, Alabama tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. Now on day 3, we do have a slight risk for some severe weather from the Georgia coast up through eastern South Carolina and eastern North Carolina. I do think this chance may extend a little farther north and east into southeast parts of Virginia later in the day Saturday. But certainly something we're going to be keeping an eye on. I don't think it's going to be a tornado outbreak, but there will be locally strong wind as the storm system kind of becomes what we call negatively tilted, where it starts to bend back to the northwest with height. And what that does is it allows more moisture to come in off the Atlantic, and it also allows winds to strengthen at the base of the trough. So Raleigh area is kind of on the fringe here, but Fayetteville, Wilson, Goldsboro, Kinston, Lenoir, all the way over to Wilmington, New Bern, Morehead City, even up to Greenville and Elizabeth City do have the risk for some severe weather later on Saturday. The same goes for Myrtle Beach, Florence, down to Charleston, Hilton Head, and all the way down to about St. Simon's Island. There could be some severe weather as well across Florida. It'll be in the afternoon over northeast Florida and then towards the evening across the peninsula. And I'm going to try and take more of a look at that here in tomorrow's video. I'm going to focus mainly on today and tonight's weather first. This is pivotalweather.com. You can see on our NAM 3 kilometer, kind of a weakening trend up until about 1 this afternoon. And then more storms break out over central and east Texas this afternoon, especially by mid-afternoon. We will see likely a severe thunderstorm watch, maybe a tornado watch, and you'll see that threat for severe weather continues. Arkansas also under the gun right through Little Rock, Hot Springs here, and then eventually getting into Pine Bluff this evening, and maybe some additional storms popping up later on tonight. I don't think they'll be severe at that point. We're kind of behind the main energy, but we will have heavy rain, and certainly there is a threat for some hail overnight tonight. But I think the more intense storms tonight are going to be roaring through parts of the coastal bend of Texas. So San Antonio in the evening, and then getting close to Corpus Christi overnight, Galveston as well. Certainly Houston potentially could see those severe storms, and southwest Louisiana as well tonight. And then tomorrow, we're not completely out of the woods. Things are mainly shifting into Louisiana and Mississippi. You can see there are some storms that could regenerate over parts of southwest Mississippi, maybe over to Marksville, Concordia, Catahoula Parish, down to just south and east of Alexandria late tomorrow, and then moving into the Baton Rouge area and weakening some tomorrow evening. We will see more storms on Saturday developing over west central Texas, but the NAM model only goes out to about lunchtime on Saturday. So more on that in tomorrow's video. Here's a closer look at southeast Texas here and central Texas. And you'll see storm development around lunchtime and on into the afternoon north and west of Huntsville. As we get into the mid-afternoon hours, we see more supercell type storms from near the hill country right up to west of Killeen and towards Fort Hood and those areas here around 4 this afternoon. We also see intense storms east of Waco towards the north side of College Station, right up the I-45 corridor and over to about Lufkin. And these could produce some pretty big hail initially. We may see a couple tornado warnings as well. The threat continues around Waco around 6 o'clock, and then it starts to move south and eastward. But some big hail possible here north and east of College Station. So if you're an A&M storm chaser, this will definitely be exciting for you right up to about sunset. And then we see the storms weakening some, but continuing south and east towards Houston and Beaumont around midnight tonight, and then continuing overnight farther south and east towards Victoria and Lake Jackson, towards Palacios and those areas here overnight tonight. I'm going to take this up a little bit farther north into northeast Texas so you guys can see how things develop here. Not too much around this morning, but this afternoon, a few isolated storms affecting the Metroplex and the mid-cities here around 3 this afternoon, Arlington, and then Dallas around 4 o'clock will be under the gun, 5 o'clock south and east of Dallas towards Waxahachie and on eastward, and then moving towards Tyler around 6 o'clock. So we definitely want to keep an eye on these storms. Farther to the east, we do have some severe weather in the Kansas City area this morning. By the time most of you see this video, it'll be out of there. We will continue to see a broken line of storms moving through eastern Iowa into northern and central parts of Illinois and southern Wisconsin. I'm not going to really zoom in on that too much because of our limits on time today, but as we get towards about 4 o'clock central, we do have a storm line to keep an eye on moving into west central Illinois towards St. Louis around 5 o'clock tonight. And there could be some severe hail and wind out of this, and maybe an isolated tornado as well. There is that 2% chance. So keep an eye on that. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last Saturday, but I do think there will be some severe weather in this area. And then things will move towards the boot heel and weaken significantly tonight. We'll just have some heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms. Same goes for western Tennessee and northwest Mississippi overnight tonight. Tomorrow we see just pretty much solid rain, a few embedded thunderstorms over middle Tennessee up into eastern Kentucky. I don't think it's really going to be a big severe weather day tomorrow, but we could have some heavy rain and then additional showers as our low pressure system moves up here tomorrow evening into the Ohio Valley, into the eastern Tennessee Valley, into eastern Kentucky. It'll be windy as well, but nothing too significant. A power outage, though, certainly is possible. We've had a lot of rain this spring, and more rain and more wind certainly isn't going to help that matter. But things should move out, should have a quiet weekend here as it turns quite a bit cooler on Saturday morning. Let's zoom in a little bit closer here into Illinois and Iowa. You can see 9-10 a.m. this morning, maybe some severe weather getting close to Peoria up to about Rockford and DeKalb. And Chicagoland will see some rain and thunderstorms around lunchtime, then a break, and then additional storms moving in late this afternoon right along I-55 and continuing into this evening around Chicago. Most of it looks like it stays south of you according to the NAM model, and then weakens with time this evening as things move into Indiana. Let's look farther south and east, and mainly at tonight and tomorrow. Again, Arkansas under the gun here this afternoon into tonight with 2 waves expected. Louisiana, not going to be quite so bad, but we have more heavy rain and thunderstorms expected tomorrow afternoon across southeast Louisiana. Those will head into the Gulf and weaken and may not even hold together by the time they get to Florida. But southwest Mississippi, central Louisiana, late today into this evening, could have isolated severe weather. Things move through Alabama tomorrow night into Georgia, upstate South Carolina. And then we're going to have to keep an eye on Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina on Saturday. In the morning, there could be some heavier storms moving through Wilmington up to about Morehead City and Atlantic Beach in the mid to late morning hours. So not a great beach day. But I do think there's going to be a break coming before the next wave moves in later in the afternoon. And I'll zoom in and show you guys this, but we could get some beach time in here around early to mid-afternoon before additional storms move in. The Florida Peninsula is pretty quiet until we get into the evening hours on Saturday, and I'll have more on that tomorrow. Let's zoom in here and take a look at what's going to move in on Friday, and we'll move things along here. And this is early in the day tomorrow, so Friday, and we don't really even see any rain moving into North Carolina at all during the day, so a pretty nice warm day. But as we get into the evening hours, we will see some showers moving into the western Carolinas, and then more solid rain moving into places like Murphy and then Cherokee before daybreak on Saturday. If you are planning morning activities, maybe taking the kids to the soccer games in Charlotte and Greensboro, you may be rained out here in the morning as rain moves into the area around 9-10 o'clock. Eastern North Carolina, that's where our heavier storms are going to be. But then we'll see things spreading up into central Virginia here around lunchtime on Saturday. This timing has sped up from what we saw a few days ago, where it looked like it would be a nighttime rain. Now it looks like the afternoon is going to be where our worst weather will be. Keep an eye on some storms popping up around Raleigh and Durham and down to about Fayetteville and Clinton and Bowie's Creek around 2 in the afternoon. I think we could see a watch issued here in the afternoon over eastern North Carolina, and then farther down into parts of eastern South Carolina. I think Richmond and Farmville and those areas have to keep an eye on things as well here in the afternoon, spreading eastward towards the end of the day, towards the beaches and into the peninsula and northern neck areas as well. And finally, in the Northeast, we are going to see rain moving into western New York here tomorrow evening. We should be okay during the day Friday, except in western New York. things start popping up around 6 o'clock or so. Maybe a few isolated cells popping up as well around Lewistown and down to the west of Harrisburg here around 5, 6 o'clock on Friday. We could see a little bit of hail and strong winds as well over northwestern PA here late in the day Friday with this initial wave that comes through. It'll weaken in the evening, and then overnight we see additional cells across Ohio moving into western Pennsylvania on Saturday morning. But you can see kind of the main moisture push is well to the north of this area. So Saturday may not be a bad afternoon across the northeast when you get east of the mountains. Things will move in the central and western parts of New York and PA and eastern West Virginia in the morning on Saturday, and then spread eastward towards the I-81 corridor in the afternoon. Finally, let's look at the north central U.S. You can see our main low pressure system spinning over North Dakota here, right in this region. We also have an area to keep an eye on over the Arrowhead this morning, and snow coming down pretty significantly here this morning, then a break, and then we see a change to some ice this afternoon near St. Cloud and on up to Duluth and into the Arrowhead, and then maybe a little bit of a brief change to rain, then right back to snow this evening, right around dinner time. And significant snow tonight over much of the Arrowhead of Minnesota. I do think we should see a winter storm warning at some point here over the Arrowhead where the snow continues to pile on. Even the Twin Cities could see a little bit of light snow overnight tonight. Probably most of the accumulation stays north and west of you, though, over the northern and central parts of Minnesota and the eastern Dakotas. And it'll still be unsettled tomorrow, still chilly, still cloudy, still some snow showers before things start winding down here in the evening tomorrow night. Here's how storm totals evolve here, and we are looking at significant snow up the Lake Superior shoreline, maybe up to a foot of snow accumulating here. Not all of it's going to stick initially, but quite a bit of snow falling this morning into the afternoon. Then the second wave builds in this evening, and that's what's going to produce the very heavy snow over north central Minnesota, International Falls, 15, 16 inches, maybe amounts close to 50 centimeters here over western Ontario. So pretty significant snowfall here. Now, temperatures today are still going to be pretty warm across the central and eastern U.S., mid-70s around Chicagoland, and that is going to change, though, tomorrow with a big drop in temperature coming overnight tonight. We see temperatures falling back into the 50s and 60s in the central part of the country and remaining below freezing tomorrow up in parts of North Dakota. It'll still be quite cold Saturday, could see record chill in central parts of Minnesota. 40s and low 50s around Kansas City, St. Louis, 40s in Chicagoland, 40s in Michigan. So while not as cold as it was Sunday and Monday, still pretty darn chilly. And temperatures stay chilly on Sunday before we see some moderation coming, where it will be warming back up here next week. In the east, we do have some record highs expected today in the Tri-Cities in eastern Kentucky, Huntington, West Virginia, 88 degrees. Charleston's going to be 87, just missing a record, 88 as well around Dulles. So we do have the threat of 90-degree temperatures, which are very close to records on the I-64 corridor from Richmond to Charlottesville, maybe up to near Stanton. As we get to tomorrow, we see even more record warmth just east of the Blue Ridge here across the DC area, upper 80s, low 90s, 81 in Binghamton. 83 on the eastern shore around Ocean City tomorrow, and then temperatures start dropping Saturday. We'll still be in the 70s, but more cloud cover shows up. We won't see any record warmth at that point, but Florida is going to be pretty warm, upper 80s across central Florida on Saturday. Still close to 80 in eastern North Carolina, 70s in central North Carolina, but then we drop off on Sunday, and it'll be much cooler at night. But a nice day on Sunday, actually, on the East Coast before that cold air settles in Monday with a cool feel to the atmosphere here Monday into Tuesday. And here are those temperature changes coming, and you can see it's warming up quickly in New York over the next 24 hours, cooling off quickly across the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes. And that cool down comes here Saturday afternoon west of the Appalachians and Sunday morning across areas east of the Appalachians, where we see temperature drops of 10 to 20 degrees before we start warming back up here early next week, Monday into Tuesday. Thank you all so much for your time. If you could, please subscribe to my channel if you're a new visitor. I thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about the weather, any comments, happy to answer those for you as well. I want to give God all the glory who has called me to do this. I feel we all have a purpose in life Took me a while to find it, but I believe God has called me to do this and to share publicly with you guys. As a Christian man, I think my faith is important. It drives me to do what I do every day. And I want to leave you with a quick verse. Psalms 133:1. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. It is like precious oil poured on the head, running down on the beard, running down on Aaron's beard, down on the collar of his robe. How good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. Got to be patient with folks. We're all different. We all came from a different background. A lot of us have been betrayed by loved ones, employers. We just haven't seen things come through the way we expected them to, whether or not we're believers. However, I encourage you guys to leave prayer requests. I believe if we can get together and pray for one another, that it will continue to show God's love through all of us. I'm a peacemaker. I don't like to get into big arguments with people, although it is something that I have certainly done in the past. But learning to kind of humble myself and to sit back and say, man, we were all created by God. He wants us all to get along well, which I know is not happening because we all have different belief systems. We all were brought up differently. A lot of us are politically leaning one way or the other. I personally am not, but I just feel like, going back and reading the word and seeing that God wants us to all get together to worship him, not each other, not one political party, not the other, but to live together in unity and to help each other out and support each other. So that's my request for you guys today, is just to sit back real quick and think about that. And please offer up any prayer requests. I'll be happy to pray for you and have others do the same. I hope you all are safe today. Have a wonderful Thursday. I'll see you again in the morning. Thanks for stopping by.